This is John Cena. Smash the like button if you also think that Daniel Garcia is not a top guy.
Let's talk about Jimmy Jacobs leaving All Elite Fake Pro Wrestling because they are trying to hide shit. They are trying to hide things from his departure. Now, their side is, oh, he's leaving because he's burnt out. I'm like, bruh, how are you burnt out? You work 1 day a week, lazy ass. 1 day a week. I'm like, you don't work house shows. Your job is to write what? 1 show a week, and that's most likely Dynamite. I feel like Jimmy Jacobs got burnt out from being a Tony Khan man, yes man. Go back and watch the video of Garcia announcing that he was returning to All Elite Fake Pro Wrestling. The crowd gave him no reaction. That's called having no star power. When Max announced that he was returning to All Elite Fake Pro Wrestling, the crowd popped. That's called levels to star power. And people cared about you. Nobody cares about Garcia returning to All Elite Fake Pro Wrestling because there was never a bidding war for this guy. So, how are you burnt out? I think this is a bold-faced lie because now I'm hearing a strong-ass rumor that he did not see Danny Garcia as a top guy. And now you are leaving? This sounds like a Tony Khan man-like deal in terms of they didn't see eye to eye. You see, Tony Khan man don't like feedback. He don't like pushback. Hence why he never does interviews with people who are objective. You have to kiss his ass. Hence why you would never see Tony Khan man being interviewed by Booker T. You would never see him being interviewed by a objective reporter. Never. That's never going to happen. Let's say he goes on Busted Open Radio. Bro, what's the point of listening? They are going to toss him softball questions. They are scared of Khan Man. They are scared of losing Khan Man as a guest for a future episode. So what's the point of watching that podcast? They are not going to ask him the tough questions that should be answered. So let's get back to Jimmy Jacobs. I don't think he left because, oh, I'm burnt out. How are you burnt out, bruh? All Elite Fake Pro Wrestling. Y'all work what? Maybe once a week. Y'all don't have the same writers for each show. So how are you burnt out? He said he was burnt out because of the schedule, the traveling schedule. How? What traveling schedule? You crazy? This is why Ospreay did not go to the World Wrestling Federation. He did not want to travel. So, wow, man, I don't believe this story. I don't think it's at the heated level, but I think him and Khan man don't see eye to eye when it came to certain talents and certain stories. Meaning Garcia. If he didn't see Garcia as a top guy, who else do he see as a top guy? There's no way in hell that it stops at Garcia because there's tons of guys on this roster that look like Garcia. So maybe Jacobs didn't see many guys as top guys on that roster, and maybe that's why he was burnt out. Because you can't go against Khan Man. If Khan Man thinks Garcia is a goddamn star, you can't go against him. You can't talk back. You cannot give him feedback. He's hard-headed, just like Vince McMahon. So let's dissect this whole, oh, I'm burnt out. I'm burnt out because of the traveling. Man, who says that in All Elite Fake Pro Wrestling? That's crazy. People go there so they can work less. So this is a bold-faced lie. This has everything to do with Jimmy Jacobs not bowing down to Khan Man's ideas. Now, there's people that are trying to make up rumors, right? By saying that Jimmy Jacobs was the reason for the Learning Tree segments. I don't believe that. Not worth a second. I don't believe any of that bullshit. That's all Chris Jericho, bitch. That's all Chris Jericho. Maybe Jacobs gave some ideas, but that's all Chris motherfucking Jericho. He is in charge of his own creative. You just gotta go by it. You just got accepted. Yeah, you can give Jericho some tips, ideas, but the final say on those segments is Chris Jericho. That's facts. He's in charge of his own creative. So no, don't blame that on Jacobs. Jacobs was just doing his job. So I think him leaving has everything to do with Khan Man and the people he pushes. You see, this is right on cue with everything I say. I think Jimmy left because he's tired of seeing vanilla midgets being pushed with no personality, right? So I'm not shocked that he did not see Garcia as a goddamn star or a top guy. That's all Khan Man. Why are we building around a storyline around Wheeler Useless. Hold on. He is the biggest factor in the BBC storyline. So let's do a fact check. How many guys in this storyline that used to be the World Wrestling Federation? And we are trying to center the attention around Wheeler Useless on whether or not he's going to turn on Jay O'Brien. A future Hall of Famer. You got Dean Ambrose. You got Pac-Man. You got Cesaro. You got Jay O'Brien. All these guys used to be stars in the World Wrestling Federation, and we are on pins and needles on whether or not Useless is going to turn on Jay O'Brien. That's crazy. If Jimmy Jacobs did not see Garcia as a star, what about fucking Wheeler Useless? What about guys like that? So it don't stop at Garcia. There's so many small men that are being pushed as monsters. Let's talk about Hologram. He beat a guy named the Beast Mortos, right? At that last pay-per-view, a small man beating a guy that has a nickname called the Beast. That's what Jimmy Jacobs was going through. He had to co-sign on all that shit. So no, I don't think Jacobs was in charge of the learning tree segments. He was just an innocent bystander that had no choice but to co-sign everything with every angle, with every storyline that Tony Khan Man wrote. Jimmy Jacobs was just there. Like I said, Tony Khan Man, he is Vince McMahon 2.0. How come you don't realize that? Now, let's talk more about Jimmy Jacobs, because Jacobs, he's also a small man. But how come even he don't see star potential in Garcia, even though he's also a small man? That's the problem with Con Man. He sees himself in small men. But Jimmy Jacobs, he wants stars. He wants to book guys who look like fucking stars, even though he's also a small man. I don't think that Jacobs was burnt out based on the time schedule, traveling everywhere, because bro, y'all don't travel to far places, okay? Y'all work once a week. I think Jacobs was burned out from Con Man and his dumb shit booking. That's what they are not trying to tell you. Jimmy Jacobs is burnt out based on Con Man's shit booking, because to me, that's a great job. I'm sorry. Working for All Elite Fake Pro Wrestling and being paid tons of that young moolah, baby, and working 1 day a week, that's a dream job, sorry. So why would you be burnt out off the time schedule to traveling everywhere? I'm like, bro, you ain't traveling. You work 1 day a week. So this is a huge cover-up. Con Man don't want to tell you the real truth. So let's talk about Max. Last week, he cut a promo on Garcia. He said that there was a bidding war for your services. He said that bidding war was as existent as the Seattle Supersonics. That was a shoot. You see, Max always slips in hard truths in his promos that are more so backstage news. He knows that Garcia, there was no bidding war, okay? That's what he means. So what he's saying is, bro, you ain't no star, man. If he thinks that, most likely Jacobs also thinks that. The only person who thinks Garcia is a goddamn star is fucking Tony Khan Man. If we are trying to build your biggest story around Wheeler Useless in a main event, that means that, yeah, Con Man, he signed off on trying to build around the company around Garcia. I hate the fact that Con Man turned Garcia back into a vanilla generic midget. He turned him back into a work rate vanilla midget with no personality, no nothing. The moment Con Man heard that Shawn Michaels had a small little interest in Garcia, he turned him back into a generic work rate wrestler. Because at first, he was dancing, right? At least he had a gimmick. It was something. Listen, I don't care how you feel about the dance. It was something. He had something. We are talking about a boring vanilla midget, right? So if he changed his gimmick into a Alex Wright-like gimmick, what's the problem? At least it was something. That's why the World Wrestling Federation had an interest, because he showed personality. He had a gimmick, a character. He was a poor man's Fandango. He was a poor man's Alex Wright. He was a poor man's Disco Inferno. That ain't no bad thing. We need mid-card guys. We need solid mid-card guys. Not everybody has to be a main eventer. That's my problem. He's trying to turn Garcia into a main eventer. That is what is killing your fucking show. He don't look like a goddamn star. That's the issue. And now you are trying to bring back Adam Coleslaw as a top guy. And I'm like, wow. you gotta see the side-by-side comparison in this feud because it's Garcia, Coleslaw, and then Max. Max is bigger than both these two men. So how are you going to draw any kind of interest in terms of Max is short, right? But at least Max got muscles. Coleslaw, Garcia are small men, right? So how are you going to draw any interest in this storyline if Max is bigger than both of them and he's short? You see, this is why Jimmy Jacobs left. Con Man has a fucked up mind when it comes to business and he don't want second opinions, right? The fact that the majority of his top guys are small, the majority of all the guys he is trying to push in that mid-card are small men. What the fuck is going on here, man? You can't keep pushing all these small men, right? Dude, I'm not crazy. Like, if you are trying to push all these small men, that means you are saying your company is built around small men. So, who else? Hook, Garcia, Coleslaw, Useless. Who else? Hologram, fucking Orange Cassidy. All these small men you push every goddamn week. So, don't believe this whole story about Jimmy Jacobs leaving because he was burnt out because of the fucking traveling schedule. Hell no, that's a cop-out. That's a bold-faced lie. You don't work that many times per week. It's a light schedule. If Jimmy Jacobs was in the World Wrestling Federation, you will be working maybe 4 days a week. So, fuck that. That's a bold-faced lie. There's no way Jacobs was burnt out because of the heavy schedule of All Elite Fake Pro Wrestling. That's a cop-out. He left because he was burnt out from Tony Khan Man's shit booking, and I'm done.